Shadptwa. Night lay warm and close around the Red Keep, the sort of heavy southern dark that swallowed lantern light and made a man conscious of his own breath. In the Godswood, there was no heart tree to watch him. Only a thin pool that kept the day's heat and a leaning elm over it with a crown of black leaves. Ned Stark sat on a bench of old stone, his cane leaned to his knee, his injured leg throbbing a steady drum in time with his thoughts. He had been raised to weigh duty as one would weigh grain. Slowly, with a careful hand, yet the scale in him had wavered since the boar had gored Robert. The smell of sour wine and spiced candles still rode with him, a courtly stink that clung to the throat. He did not hear Renly at first. The younger Baratheon moved with the confidence of a man who believed all corridors would part to make room for him. He wore green tonight, deep as a summer field, a mantle pinned with a golden rose Loras Tyrell must have tucked there. A smiling flourish on the very edge of danger. Renly's perfume came ahead of him. Citrus and clove, carried by the soft breeze that turned the elm's leaves as if a giant had sighed. "You sent word," Renly said, stopping at the edge of the pool. He had left his customary easy grin somewhere outside the garden. The shadows cut his face at the cheeks and eyes, and made him older than he was. "I did," Ned said. The words went out of him like an oath spoken to water. "Close the door." The guards outside obeyed. They were Renly's men, and wore no sigils in this place. Only plain leather, each with a scarred sword hilt the color of old bone. Ned had known men like that in the north. Men who understood that secrecy was a weight sometimes greater than armor. Renly waited. It was a good sign. Most of the small council could not bear a pause without filling it with their own speech. "We do it tonight," Ned said. Renly's shoulders eased as if unshackled. He did not leap, he did not crow victory, and for that Ned found himself liking him a little more. "Tell me what you need." Quiet hands, enough to bind a queen and guide frightened children. No swords drawn if it can be helped. Renly's eyes were jets of ink in the gloom. "No man can promise that." "You will promise me that you will try," Ned said. His own voice surprised him. The iron of it, the echo of a winter morning. "And you will promise me that we take them alive, unharmed. They are the realm's blood." He paused. "Robert's is gone." At that, Renly's gaze flicked to the pool and away. He had seen the king, bandaged and moaning, had seen the stains on the sheets, the way a crown can sit on a man's brow, even as he slips away from it. "We will do it clean," Renly said. "My men, and Sir Loras, with the surest of the Tyrell lances." "The gold cloaks," answered Janos, "and Janos answers coin." "I prefer true steel." "Bow." "Janus answers survival," Ned said. "He will bend where the wind is strongest. Tonight, let us be the wind." Renly nodded once. Quick, as if that settled something in him that had ached. "Your daughters?" "Asleep. The one dreaming of songs and the other dreaming of swordplay." Ned let out a breath. He could see Sansa in his mind. Sansa with her copper hair braided like a court lady's, lips moving on words she had learned from the queen herself. Each word a thorn she did not yet know would pierce. Arya was more like the north, unadorned. The thought of them in this city's halls, so far from clean snow and honest cold, bruised him. They will stay in the Tower of the Hand, ungallant, though it seems to keep them penned. "I will set loyal men in each corridor." "And the boy?" Renly asked softly. He did not have to name Joffrey. The boy's shadow walked before him wherever he went, all sharp angles and arrogance and the glittering echo of a mother's will. "We bind them all," Ned said. "We wait for Stannis to come." Renly's mouth twitched. It might have been a smile in better light. "You are determined to make the older brother my king." "I am determined to keep the law," Ned replied, because he could not confess that he was determined to keep his word to a dead friend. Renly studied him for a long heartbeat, then inclined his head. "Tonight, then. We will sweep like a tide and leave no blood in the hallways if we can manage it. I'll have Loras take the queen's chambers. He can charm a bird out of her own nest, and if that fails, he can cut the nest from the bough." "Charm then," Ned said. "Cutting comes too soon in any realm." They parted without ceremony. Renly slid out into the corridor, a whisper of green and leather swallowed by torchlight. Ned stood slowly, the leg protesting, and collected his cane. He touched the elm's rough bark as one might touch a hound's flank in passing. "Old gods," he thought, "if you hear in a place without a weirwood, then hear me now. I am doing this for his children as much as for mine." Back in his solar, the candles guttered, and he set his hand to parchment. There were letters that must go out before dawn. Ravens like thoughts thrown into the sky to find their marks. One was to Dragonstone, and he poured into it everything he could not speak aloud to Renly. The truth of the royal children's blood, the counsel of a dying king, the urgency. He addressed Stannis with the courtesy due a brother to the crown, and a severity due a man who had never smiled in kindness at him. Another went north, to Winterfell, full of lean instructions and love as spare and strong as cured leather. To Robb he wrote of patience and preparation. To Maester Luwin he wrote of harvest and horses, the quiet work that keeps a people from hunger while lords make noise. When he sealed the last letter, he pressed his signet longer than necessary, as if heat could travel through wax into the words, and keep them warm till they found the eyes that needed them. Varys came as softly as a cat might. Ned did not hear him until the eunuch cleared his throat delicately. "My lord hand is wakeful late." Ned did not startle. He was too tired for it. "You often find the hour that suits you." Varys smiled in a way that made the room seem colder. "The city is full of hours. Some are best left to sleep. Others require care." "You know," Ned said. Varys' hands floated in a gesture like a shrug. "I know that a king dies, and a kingdom begins to choose what it will be next. I know that men of action are sometimes wiser than men of letters." His gaze dipped to the scattered missives, then rose again. "If the realm survives the weak, my lord, I will say it owes its good fortune to your courage, and not to my whispers." "Say nothing at all," Ned told him. "Do not set your little birds chirping. Do not flutter your feathers in any hall tonight." "I am but a dove," Varys offered. "Doves fly," Ned said. "Be a stone." For once, Varys' laugh was genuine. "Even a stone knows which way the ground lies." "Good night, my lord hand. You will not find me in your way." After Varys, Petyr Baelish, as if the shadows had agreed to arrange themselves by habit. Littlefinger leaned against the doorframe and toyed with a silver coin, sending it along the back of his fingers and catching it again. He always looked as if he were at the edge of a private jest. "You wear the night badly," he said. "It suits you less than snow." "Leave, Petyr," Ned said. "We are done." "We? You? I? The city? Or your patience?" Littlefinger flipped the coin and plucked it from the air. "I urge caution. It is a stale word perhaps, but a useful one. You have the look of a man ready to seize a nettle with his bare hands because a boy dares you." "Careful," Ned said. "If you speak of boys and nettles, we will come to thorns." Littlefinger's eyes glinted. "Ah, then you do mean to pluck a queen from her chamber." He sighed theatrically, yet his voice softened on the next breath. "Have it as you will. Only remember that Janos Slint answers to coin, and coin does not leave a stain on a man's hands. It leaves a pearly sheen. I can make him glisten for you." "No." Ned's disgust flared and cooled. "I have men who do not need gilding. You may keep your coins." "You think you are choosing honesty over cunning," Littlefinger murmured, as if to himself. "You are choosing different cunning." He straightened. "Do what you must. If you falter, I will not be beneath you when you fall. I am too slender for that burden." "Ben?" He went with a little bow whose mockery Ned did not watch. He had letters to set in a leather tube, and then a knot to tie with fingers that did not shake. By the time he stepped into the corridor again, the castle had drawn in its breath. Torches fluttered. The very stones seemed to be listening. Ned moved on the leg that ached and the leg that did not, and told himself pain was a kind of prayer. Each step a small offering to the men who would go where he could not. Renly's men filtered through serviceways and down staircases. No lord had reason to know. Loras Tyrell met Ned in a sconce-lit landing. He was very young, too young for the easy grace with which he wore his steel and the polite smile he offered the world. His helm hung from his hand. It was green with a golden plume. "Sir Stark," he said, earnest. "We will be kind." "Be sure," Ned said. "No man is so dangerous as a boy certain of his kindness." Loras blinked, then nodded, as if tucking a lesson into his belt with his dagger. He led his men away without more chatter. Ned had watched them go. It was good steel, Tyrell steel. Well-oiled, well-fitted. The sort of armor that made its own argument. He remembered the feel of northern mail, rougher, colder, honest against skin. He wished for that. He wished for 1,000 things that would not help him tonight. He returned to the Tower of the Hand and found Arya awake, hair unbraided and eyes full of mischief. Syrio Forel was with her, cat silent, the longest shadow in the room. "You will stay with my daughter," Ned told him. Syrio tapped his chest with 2 fingers and bowed. "I am the first sword of Bravos." He grinned. "But for tonight, I am the last door in the Tower of the Hand." Arya made a sound between a snort and a laugh. "He taught me to be a cat," she said, proud. "Cats don't let queens pass them." "That will do," Ned said, because his throat would not let him say more. He smoothed her hair with his hand. It felt like Caitlyn's sometimes did in the morning when the braids had just come undone. Wild and soft. "Keep your sister if she comes." "Sansa doesn't like cats," Arya said. "She likes doves." "She will come anyway," Ned murmured. He left them with a double handful of men he trusted and went to find Sansa. She lay awake staring at the canopy and rose as if the air had lifted her. Her eyes were wide and shining with a girl's belief in what ought to happen. "Father," she breathed, as if the word alone would make the world straighten. "Will the king be well? The queen has told me he is strong. When he wakes there will be songs, won't there? Joff will." "Listen to me," he said. And the father in his voice made her mouth still, her hands fold. "Tonight you will not leave this tower. If anyone other than my own men comes to you, you will not go with them. If the queen herself comes, you will not go. You will bar the door and call for help." Mender. Her confusion rose to panic, and then to something that looked like betrayal. "The queen is my..." He took her hands. He did not have words delicate enough for her hope, so he wrapped blunt truth in gentleness. "The queen is a lady of great courage. She will do as she believes she must for her children. We will do as we must for the realm. It is a hard thing. I wish it were not yours to bear." "Mender." She swallowed and nodded, the motion quick and small. He kissed her brow. She was trembling. When he left, he did not look back. He could not bear the sight of her brave face. Midnight's heart tolled in the keep when the first soft knock sounded at the queen's door. There was a parley first, because Loras asked for it, a murmur through which Ned imagined Cersei Lannister's voice flowing like wine. He pictured her standing straight as a spear, hair loose over her night shift, mouth composed into patience that would not last. An hour earlier, a maid had run from her rooms carrying a posy of lemon blossoms and tears. The queen liked lemon in all things. The scent had lived in the corridor when Ned had passed it days before. The scent rose now, faint, as if it had seeped into the stones. The door opened. It did not open wide. Loras bowed deeply. His men did not look down, and that was wise. "I will not be manhandled in my own chamber," Cersei said, the words carrying like a bell struck. "You will not be," Loras replied in velvet. "You will walk with us, my lady. We will protect you from any insult." Insult?" She laughed. "A bright sound made of glass." "From the night," Loras said. And something in his posture made even that insolence sound like courtesy. Myrcella clung to her mother's sleeve, curls tangled, eyes huge. Tommen peered out from behind a bedpost, thumb at his mouth. Cersei's glance cut like a thrown knife. "If you touch them..." "We will not," Loras repeated. "No one will. The Lord Hand swore it." "Ah, the Lord Hand," she murmured. "The cold statue that walked down from the north. He thinks to teach the South how to keep law." She stepped past the door. The movement was a strike. "Very well. I know games. We will play. Joffrey was harder. He had been sleeping in a chamber near the royal solar, guarded by Sir Meryn Trant and Sir Mandon Moore. Sir Meryn had the little pig eyes of a man who liked his authority because it gave license to smallness. Sir Mandon's gaze was like a shuttered window, nothing in it for any man. They drew steel in the same breath. "Lay down your blades," said Sir Robar Royce of the Rainbow Guard, who had come with Loras. His voice was resonant stone with a northern undertone that gladdened Ned in some obscure corner. "By the authority of the Hand and the Master of Laws, the royal family is to be secured for their safety and the safety of the city." Meryn sneered. His sword's edge made a thin chime as it turned in torchlight. "We serve the king." "The king sleeps," Robar said. "And the king's hand commands. The oaths bind you to the realm, not to a woman's temper." Meryn's face went red. He took a step forward that would have been foolish if he had been a better swordsman. Loras shifted and moved, and steel kissed steel. Loras did not press. He only pressed enough. Their swords sang, and then rang. And then the sound died as Meryn watched the tip of Loras's blade write a small circle over his heart. "Enough," said Barristan Selmy, who had come to the commotion with the inevitability of a tide. His white cloak floated behind him, a pale sail in a dim corridor. "Put them down, all of you." His eyes moved to Loras, weighing, and Ned saw something old passing behind them. Remembrance of another court, another boy, and another queen. "Sir Loras, you will not shame your cloak with needless provocation. Sir Meryn, you will not shame yours with stupidity. Sir Mandon, if you mean to prove a point, choose one with honor in it." Mandon Moore's face did not change at all, as if expression was a language he had never learned. He lowered his sword. Meryn spat. The spittle hit the stones and glittered. He sheathed his blade with a jerk and glared at the young knight whose sword had not touched him but clearly could have. In the bedchamber, Joffrey had pulled on boots and a fur-trimmed cloak that looked foolish at this season, sulking heat and pride. He scowled. "How dare you?" "Your Grace," Barristan said, and the way he said it made the boy look up sharply. "You will come with us to safer rooms while the small council sees to matters of state. It is a dreary duty, but it will be told of you later that you bore it with composure." Flattery worked where reason would not. Joffrey adjusted his cloak and lifted his chin. "I am not afraid." "Good," Loras said gently. They moved, like a slow river then. The corridors of the Red Keep had never been so crowded with silence. A servant girl pressed her back to the wall and closed her eyes. When she opened them again, she had decided to remember none of it. Janos Slint arrived with 20 gold cloaks and looked from Renly's household guard to the Tyrell knights and back, counting edges. Sweat beaded on his lip, and he wiped it with a thick thumb. "Orders," he said to no one and everyone. "From the Hand," said Renly, stepping out of the shadow as a man steps out of a curtain, unruffled, smiling a little now. "We have them. You will follow them." "Bane." Janos met his eye and saw something there. Tyrell Gold banked behind Baratheon confidence, perhaps, and nodded with the quickness of a man making peace with his own cowardice. "For the peace of the city," he said loudly, so his men would hear. When Cersei and her children were installed in the rooms that had once served as apartments for visiting princes, Ned went to speak with her. Renly wanted to stand at his shoulder, but Ned asked him to wait. Some things required only 2 people in a room. She stood at the window with her hair unbound, the city laid out below like a jeweled cloak. She did not turn when he came in. "You do not understand courts," she said to the knight. "I understand men," he said. "And children." She looked then, her eyes polished green stones. "Do not speak to me of children. Do not mouth virtue to me as if it were a sweetmeat. There is nothing sweeter in your mouth that will not turn bitter in mine. I have promised your safety," he said. "I have promised theirs. It will be kept. Until it becomes inconvenient," she murmured. "Such promises always are. You think you are a good man, Eddard Stark. You are a hard one." Mensuan. He did not deny it. "In the morning the council will meet. We will present the king's writ. Stannis Baratheon will be summoned to assume his place as Robert's heir and rule as the law requires. Her laugh this time was warmer, more dangerous. Stannis. That cold, joyless man. He will be loved. Of course he will. She stepped closer, and the lemon that clung to her hair nearly masked the faint tang of fear, which she wore like a hoarded perfume. Do you truly think you can keep this city with letters? With your northern honor? The people love a show. They will love my son more than they love your ice. Love is the only law a city obeys. Then, love did not save your husband, Ned said, too tired to dress the truth. The boar did not care for songs. Her mouth thinned, and for a moment there was a flare of raw grief in her eyes. Unguarded, unqueenly, almost human. Then she shut it away. Go, she said, not in command but as if the word were a door. She opened and closed. He went, and slept at last in a chair with his boots on, and dreamt he was walking in Winterfell's godswood. And there was a heart tree after all, white as a winter dawn, its red leaves falling around him like a steady snow that did not melt when it touched the ground. At dawn the bells began. They tolled for a king, and even the gulls seemed to grow solemn. The keep took on a hush edged with activity, the way a house feels when a child is ill, and the mother has taken the measure of the day. Ned washed his face and hands in cold water, and felt awake in a way sleep could not have given him. He tied his hair back himself, fingers stiff with the habit of years, and went down to the council chamber on a leg that complained with each step. They came, Renly, all polished ease. Pycelle, wheezing with the effort of finding sorrow in his belly. Very sad as a saint in a painted window. Littlefinger, crisp and cool as a coin. Barristan, who took his place behind the chair that should have held a white cloak's weight. And Janos Slynt, invited as a test and a message both. They sat, or stood, and waited. Ned laid the parchment before them, the one with Robert's uneven hand and his own careful words inscribed beneath. He had not written Joffrey's name as heir, though Robert had meant to. He had instead written that the hand would rule until the rightful heir be known. And as he placed the letter, he thought of how words can be stones when men need them to be. The king is dead, Ned said. May the gods receive him. For a heartbeat, there was only Pycelle's sigh. That long, pious gust. Then Renly said, "We are gathered." Ned spoke the truths that could be spoken. He said the realm must be held in order and peace until Stannis came. He said he would serve as regent under the authority of the king's hand until the succession was settled. He did not say what he knew of the children's father. That truth would break something that did not need breaking in this room. He would save the break for one blow, before a different audience. When Stannis could stand beside the law he embodied. Littlefinger's voice slid across the table like a blade slipping between ribs. "It is a neat letter," he observed. "The lines are handsome. My compliments to your scribe." "Nensand." "Thank you," Ned said, not looking at him. "Stannis is far," Littlefinger went on, "and the tides are uncertain. Ships overturn. Crows grow tired. A city needs a hand, yes, but the hand must be attached to an arm and that arm to a body the people recognize. Then let them recognize it," Renly said, mild as cream. "They will see Sir Eddard Stark walking among them, see the gold cloak stationed at each gate, see bread arrive at the bakeries without the queen's steward skimming flour. They will see peace. Then they will see a northern lord," Littlefinger said, still mild. "They will see a stranger." Barristan lifted a hand, and the room attended. "They will see the Lord Hand and the council standing with him. They will see the King's Guard honoring the writ." His voice did not rise. It did not need to. "They will see that the rule of law, this law, is observed." Ned bowed his head to the old knight, gratitude heavy and quiet. Janos Slynt swallowed audibly. Varys folded his white hands. Pycelle cleared his throat to say something watery about precedent and piety, and Renly cut him off by standing. "Done," he said. "Sir Barristan will have copies of the writ read in every square. The gold cloaks will be placed as the hand directs. I will see to the queen and her children's comfort. Loras will keep the watch in the inner keep. And Littlefinger, his smile showed teeth, will keep the city's purse, as he excels at that even in times of disorder. Littlefinger's eyes said a number of things none of his features would admit. He inclined his head. Ace, my lord's command. When it was finished, when the last wax was pressed, and the last order given, Ned went to the sept where Robert lay. The candles burned steadily, their small flames defiant, and the air smelled of old stone and beeswax, and the copper thread of mortality that runs through all things. Ned stood beside the bier and looked at the man he had followed, fought for, forgiven. You were never made for death, he said in his heart. Robert had been made for shouting and laughing and breaking benches. He had been made for riding under banners that snapped like the flag of summer itself. He had not been made to lie still with his hands folded and his mouth closed. Ned found himself thinking, not of war or rebellion, but of a morning when they had been boys. Boys in the skin of their first beards, standing ankle-deep in a cold river, dragging a log free of rocks, while Lyanna, still small as a starling and twice as fierce, shouted instructions from the bank. The water had been clear as glass. The sun had made diamonds on it. They had laughed until they could not breathe and then done the work. It was a picture made of clean air and simple tasks. It hurt to hold it. Forgive me that I did not do this sooner, he whispered to the silence. He did not know if he meant seize the queen or seize his friend by the shoulders and shake the truth into him about children and crowns, and the way truths rot when you leave them in the dark. He left the sept with the sense that something had been set in motion that would not be stopped without shattering. In the corridor, Varys glided to his side like a ghost that had learned to walk. The small folk are already at the gates, my lord hand, he murmured. The bells have drawn them as a bell will draw men to a table. They ask who rules them. It is a hungry question. Feed them bread and answers, Ned said. We have bread enough until noon, Varys replied. And answers until someone asks another question. Your mercy with the queen will be noted. It is not mercy, Ned said. It is justice. Varys' eyes gleamed. Ah, then let us hope the city prefers justice to entertainment. Now, through the rest of that day, the Red Keep was a hive that had been knocked. Buzzing, purposeful, dangerous. Notices were posted. Men read them with moving lips. Some nodded, some frowned. A few looked upward, which was not a good sign in a city where rumors fell from windows like chamber pots. Renly moved among his men like a banner, light and buoyant, keeping spirits high with a joke tucked in the hilt of every command. Loras was tireless and surprisingly gentle with those who needed ushering. Janos Slynt kept his men where they were told for fear of losing his command and his head with it. Barristan stood sentinel at the sept, a statue with a sword, and made every man who came to look on Robert's face a little quieter when he left. Toward evening, Sansa sent for her father. He found her sitting without her ladies, hands folded in her lap as tightly as if they were another set of hands restraining her. Is it true? She asked without preface. She had never been a child who crept to truth. She ran to it, even when she would hate it, that the Queen and Joff are prisoners? They are guests under guard, he said. There was a difference, and it mattered because he said it mattered. Her eyes filled and did not spill. He will be very angry. He will be safe, Ned answered, so softly he scarcely heard himself. He will have time to learn something he has not yet learned. What is that? She asked. How to be a king, he said, and watched the thought trickle through her like water through sand. She wanted to argue. He could see it. She also wanted to be good. He could see that too, and it made him ache because goodness in a girl is a thing the world wishes to bruise. When he left her, night had fallen again. He went to the ramparts. The city below was a sprawl of lanterns and shouts. Somewhere a song had begun and faltered, the singer losing the words. Renly found him there, cloak thrown over his shoulders, hair stirred by the salt wind from Blackwater Bay. You made the right choice, Renly said, coming to stand beside him. His voice had a new note in it, an undertone of command he had not possessed yesterday. It fit him too well, like a borrowed cloak that a man means to keep. I made the necessary one, Ned said. Renly looked out at the water where the moon had printed its coin upon the surface. "When Stannis comes, we will welcome him," he said. "And we had wait." He glanced at Ned. "You know he will try to snuff this city like a candle if he thinks it burns for anyone else." "The city will burn for no one if we let it," Ned said. "We will keep it in hand until he arrives, and then we will keep it with him. We will show the people that law has returned to its chair." "Then no." Renly made a small sound in his throat. Not quite assent, not quite laughter. "Law is an old man, my lord. The people prefer a young face. But we will try it your way, for now." He laughed then, quick and bright. "You see, I can be generous." Ned looked at him. In the lamplight, his face was all clean lines and confidence, a prince who had discovered he liked being obeyed. There was warmth in him, and charm, and something else that could go either way. "We will do what is right," Ned said, "even when it is not liked." Renly's smile did not dim. "You are what you are, Eddard Stark, and I am what I am. Let us hope we can keep liking each other while we are it." They stood together for a while without speaking, and watched the moon silver the mouth of the bay. A gull cried sharp as a knife on a whetstone. Somewhere far down in the city, a woman laughed, long and bright, and the sound made its way up the hill like a thread of music. In the morning after, the ravens went. Black shapes against a pale sky, they wheeled and found the lines of air that would carry them. One winged toward Dragonstone, with a message that might change a man's life. Ned watched until the bird was a speck, and then, until it was nothing. He thought of Stannis' mouth tightening when he read the words, of the way his fingers would fold around the parchment, like a gauntlet closing. There was bread in the markets that day. There were patrols on the streets. There were rumors like smoke. The Queen did not ask for Ned again, nor did he trouble her until he must. Joffrey stamped and raged, and then, chastened by Barristan's quiet gaze and Loras's gentle mockery, practiced looking dignified and failed often. Myrcella clutched dolls and found comfort where she could. Tommen asked for lemon cakes and realized after the third that food could comfort and confuse in equal measure. Sansa sewed until her fingers pricked and bled, and did not cry. Arya practiced with Syrio, and when she leaped from one foot to another, she shouted, "Left!" in a way that made the men posted outside the door grin into their beards. On the third day, a fisherman from Dragonstone brought word that the island was stirring, that stores were being laid aboard, that sails were being mended, that a seal had been set on a letter, and a man had been seen riding to the maester's tower. Ned took the news like a draught of cold air. He stood in his solar and looked at the map on the wall, and traced with his finger the coastline from the city to Dragonstone. The flame-painted mountain on the island made him think of sleeping dangers. He told himself danger could also be a promise. He did not see Littlefinger until evening. Petyr drifted in the way an uninvited thought does, and leaned again in Ned's door, as if hinges were made for him. "You have been very efficient," he said. "It is almost admirable. You do not admire men like me." Littlefinger smiled. "I admire anyone who survives their principles. It is so rare. You would prefer me dead of them?" "Oh no," Petyr said. "Dead men are boring. They have no pockets." He crossed the room, lifted a cup, sniffed, and made a face at the absence of wine. "You will have a war, you know. Perhaps not this week. Perhaps not even this month. But men whose names start with L and end with N do not forgive insult. The lion has a long memory." "Bento." Ned's jaw tightened. "I have insulted no one. I have protected the realm." "You have insulted pride," Littlefinger said, setting the cup down. "And pride is a lord's first and last name. Expect teeth." He tilted his head as if listening to music. Only he could hear. "When they come, I will sell them weak steel, if you like." "I have steel enough," Ned said. Littlefinger laughed softly. "Oh, you do. The trouble with you, Lord Stark, is that you always have just enough. Never too little, never too much. It makes you very poor at the games you must now play." He straightened. "But then, that may be why the gods made men like me." He bowed. Sleep well, if you can." When he had gone, Ned leaned both hands on the table and let his head hang like a man in prayer. Outside, the evening wind pushed at the shutters. He thought of Robb reading the letter at Winterfell, of Catelyn, who would be somewhere between sky and stone at the Eyrie or on the road, steady as only she could be. He thought of Stannis and of Renly, brothers as unlike as ice and fire. He thought of the old gods and the new, and of how both seemed to require men to do their work anyway. He did not know that on the same wind that tugged at his shutters, a gull had flown up the coast and veered from its path, following a ship that ran low in the water with weight and speed. He did not know where that ship had been outfitted, or that the men aboard it drank small, fierce sips of courage from a skin and whispered a name that was not his. He did not know that at a table lit by a single candle in a fortress grown from rock and ash, a man with a jaw like a cliff and eyes like the bottom of a well had set his seal to a promise he had tasted his whole life. He knew only this: he had chosen, and he would go on choosing. He went to look in on his daughters, as he always did when the day had made him bleak. Sansa slept finally, a little curl at the corner of her mouth as if she had found a pleasant thought and followed it. Arya had one foot on top of her blankets and the other tucked under them like a bird. Syrio was a shadow on a stool, awake because he had learned to sleep with one ear on the world. Ned stood very still and let the quiet rise up around him. The city breathed. The sea breathed. The dragons in their stone dreams breathed. He could not hear the old gods here, but he could hear something. It was the sound a blade makes when it is drawn very slowly from a scabbard, not to threaten but to warn. He nodded to it as one nods to a respectful enemy. In the days that followed, he made the city a place that could survive the blow he knew was coming. He sent riders to the granaries along the Roserad and the King's Road to bring grain. He had the piers at the river watched. He put men who could count in charge of counting, and men who could fight in charge of fighting. He watched Renly laugh and charm and edge his own men into posts they had not held the week before. He watched Barristan do what he had always done: be a rock others broke themselves upon. He watched Littlefinger turn the city's purse into a well that made its own water. He watched Varys hover and listened to him more than he admitted aloud. Sansa came to him one afternoon and stood with her hands behind her back like a supplicant in a song. "Father," she said, "there is to be a feast for the king's memory. May I go?" "There will be wine," he said, "and voices, and too much noise." "I will sit with the ladies," she promised. "I will be very quiet." He looked at her and saw that she wanted to belong to the city the way a girl wants to belong to a story. He nodded. "You may go. Arya will not." "I know," she said. She would climb on the table. She would break the table, he said, and Sansa laughed a little, as if laughter were a coin she had found in an old purse. It pleased him, and then it hurt him, and he did not know which feeling to trust. In the quiet that fell toward evening, he found himself again on the ramparts. The wind was busier now, the sea choppier, as if news had run across it with quick feet. Renly joined him without a word, and leaned on the parapet like a boy, comfortable beside an uncle he actually liked. "Word from the Reach," he announced, without turning. "Mace Tyrell sends condolences for our loss and vegetables for our bellies." "Have the cooks use the vegetables," Ned said. "We have enough condolences." Renly glanced at him. "You may find you cannot keep your promise to yourself." "What promise is that?" "That no blood be spilled," Renly said lightly. "War has a way of convincing men that blood is an efficient ink." "I will keep it where I can," Ned replied, and Renly sighed as if at a stubborn horse. The moon rose, and with it a scattering of lights on the far water that might have been stars except that they were too low and moved as stars do not. Renly followed his gaze. "Ships," he said. He sounded pleased, like a boy recognizing toys. Ned did not feel pleased. He felt a certain rightness, the way a man feels before a storm when his bones ache in a way that is familiar and inevitable. He set his hands on the rough stone and let the wind sting his face. He had made a beginning. That was all a man as limited as he was could do. The rest would come with dawns and decisions, with letters returned and ships making harbor, with brothers who would not be brothers long. with lions who remembered everything. He went to sleep that night believing the city could be held. He dreamed not of snow but of rain on stone. Steady and cleansing. Rain that washed the dust from leaves and laid the smell of lemon deeper into the mortar. In the morning, he would write more letters and read others. And he would tell his daughters small truths in gentle words. And he would sit across from a queen who would not break, and a boy who might yet bend. And he would stand beside men who would one day be enemies, and for now were allies. And he would take up his cane and walk. The Red Keep would still be there when he reached the end of the corridor. The sea would still be laying out its endless argument at the foot of the city. The sky would still be too bright for northern eyes. There would be bread to count and swords to sheathe, and then unsheathe when justice called for it. And there would be always the choice he had made, remade in small actions 100 times before noon, and again before dusk. He had joined a man he did not fully trust, because he trusted the thing that needed doing. He stood at the window, heard the gulls, and when the first raven returned with a ribbon of black against blue, he turned and went to meet whatever message it carried.